In this presentation, we will discuss the process of downloading transactions, downloading bank feed type transactions that you can then import into the accounting software into Xero. Here we go with Xero. We're imagining in this scenario that we want to download the bank feeds from our institution. In this case, we're going to be using Wells Fargo as the institution. So if we're in a situation we're trying to connect up the bank feeds or get the bank feed information directly from the bank into our system. For whatever reason, we want to then get more information from the bank. For example, if you want a full years of information perhaps, and you couldn't get that from the bank feed transaction, then you could go to the institution. So we're imagining here we need a full year's worth of information to do our taxes or something like that. We want to add the information for an entire year. We couldn't do that with the bank feed connection. Therefore, we're going to go to our institution. Within the institution, most large institutions should have some kind of option, such as this on Wells Fargo, where it's going to say we're going to have a download account activity. So we want to download the account activity. Remember, you can't just use the bank statements, because the bank statements won't be formatted in such a way that we can then upload the transactions. All we want are the bare transactions here. The bank statement will look something like this in like a PDF format, and it won't be able to pick up just the bare information, which is basically this stuff. Therefore, we need just the transaction information. That's what we're looking for on our institution. Now, most institutions will have that, and then they'll have options for you to be able to download it. It's very nice if they have a range that you can set up too. So that means that if you want a full year's worth of data, you can set the range for the full year worth of data that you need, or you can have a very specific range that could be in the middle of the month or something like that, if that's how you wanted to download your data for whatever purpose you need it for. Then you'll typically have different ways that data can be given to you. The typical kind of ways, they might have a Quicken, as is here, and then QuickBooks is pretty common now. So a QuickBooks file is something, the QuickBooks Online file is something that you can typically upload to Xero as well. So if you were to get the QuickBooks type file type for these transactions, then that's something that you should be able to take and upload to Xero. And then this one down here, usually you'll have a spreadsheet kind of format. It says comma delimited. It's basically a spreadsheet. So that when you see that, I basically think of a CSV file. That in essence means you'll basically be able to upload it or open it with Excel. However, it won't have all the formatting for Excel. So when you manipulate something, it won't keep that formatting in a CSV file, because the point is that the CSV file is a very basic type of spreadsheet, and it needs to be basic so that when you upload it to different database programs, such as the Xero software, it won't get all messed up by the formatting of Excel, all the cool kind of formatting of Excel. You want a very basic spreadsheet. So that's what this will do. And that'll be kind of like the default. If you can't, you can use QuickBooks here if you want to use, but then the default will be this item down here, like a spreadsheet format, which could be very useful too, because you might want to manipulate the data before you actually upload it to Xero. It might actually be beneficial as well. So here's an example of the files. If you download a QuickBooks file, it's going to look something like this. It's got a .qbo type of extension. So if you open this up, you won't be able to manipulate or change any of the numbers, but it should be fairly straightforward to take this document or this file and then upload it for your bank feed type transactions into Xero. It should be able to pick up those transactions, basically the same format as if you had a connection directly with the bank. You'll just upload those transactions and they should not be a problem in that format. Otherwise, you can download the other type of format, which will typically have a .csv type of extension. So a .csv looks like an Excel worksheet. You can open it in Excel, but if you do any kind of formatting in Excel, it'll probably not save it if it's in a CSV format, because again, that's the point. So let's open up this CSV format. That's the format that we're going to use. We'll use kind of a simplified CSV file for our... In other words, the first problem that we will have a little bit less detail than you might see on some of the description columns when you have the bank feeds. You'll see some numbers and some added information that will come from the bank feeds. But just realize that the stuff that's coming from the bank is really simplified kind of information. All we're dealing with is the date, the amount, and the description. And I blanked out the amounts here. So we're going to have to take that information and use it then to make our financial statement. So we're going to have to take that information, convert it to basically the forms that would be used, deposit forms, receipt type forms, that we can add into our accounting system that then Xero can use to create the financial statements. Now, the description information is the stuff that will vary most often. If you're doing like electronic transfers, like paying Verizon electronic transfers or something like that, you might have some numbers in the transaction that may indicate different types of things in the transaction, some different descriptions within the transactions, and those might be useful for us to get into some more detailed kind of coding or some more detailed kind of applications where we can take that added information and think about if there's some kind of variation or difference between two transactions that are from the same customer or vendor, we might be able to apply them to different accounts. And that's going to be one of the problems we have with the bank feeds. For example, if we had two items that are going to Home Depot and one was going to a different account than another, like one's going to equipment, one's to supplies, is there any way that we can have the bank feeds memorize the fact that we want one of these items going to supplies and the other one going to an equipment type of account, and some kind of advanced rules like that where we have the same vendor or customer that might be going to different types of accounts. So when we have this added detail, these numbers and whatnot, maybe we can use that information to make some more kind of advanced rules. But the basic information that's going into our system, pretty straightforward, pretty basic. We're just taking these transactions, date, amount, description. That's what's going to be in limbo basically in our system, and then we're going to take that information and apply it out so that our system can then use it to populate and create the financial statements.